Chosen one, the final test is here. God wants to see your faith in action. The time has come for you to rise, to show the world, and more importantly, to show yourself just how deeply rooted your faith truly is. This isn't just any test. This is the test that will elevate you, refine you, and prepare you for the greatness that lies ahead. Will you be strong enough to face it? Will you be faithful enough to trust God's plan? This is your moment. Every chosen one must face a final test of faith. It's a challenge that shakes your very foundation, a trial that will push you to your limits and beyond. But here's the truth. This test is not meant to break you. It's designed to prepare you for what's coming next, to mold you into the person you were always meant to be. This is a moment that will prove to God and to yourself that your faith is unwavering, that you are ready for the next chapter in your divine purpose. You may feel overwhelmed, confused, or even abandoned at times during this test, but know that God is watching you closely. He is not distant or detached. He is with you, guiding you through the storm. This is the final step in your journey of transformation. This test will bring you closer to the greatness God has destined for you, and the rewards on the other side are beyond anything you could imagine. But first, you must pass the test. If you feel the weight of this challenge and know you are being called to rise above, comment 77 below. It's time to show your faith. Stay with me, because in this video, I'm going to reveal why this test is necessary, how to recognize it, and most importantly, how to pass it with unwavering faith. Why the final test is necessary. The final test of faith you are about to face is not just some random challenge that happens by chance. It is a divine process, one that has been unfolding ever since you were chosen. The test may feel overwhelming or unfair at times, but it is absolutely necessary. You must understand that this is not something that is happening by accident, and it's not something designed to break you. This final trial is meant to refine you, to push you beyond your limits, and to prepare you for the greatness that awaits you on the other side. This test will determine if you are truly ready for the divine purpose that you've been called to fulfill. Many times throughout history, God's people have been tested in ways that challenge the very core of their beliefs and their trust in His plan. These tests were not merely about overcoming difficulty, but about learning how to hold on to faith even when the world seemed to crumble around them. They were not meant to destroy, but to strengthen. And you, chosen one, are facing this exact kind of test right now, just as those before you have been tested. So are you, but in doing so, you are becoming something greater than you ever imagined. One of the most powerful examples in the Bible of a final test is the story of Abraham. When God asked Abraham to sacrifice his son Isaac, it was a test that shook him to his core. Abraham had waited so long for Isaac, prayed for him fervently, and held on to the belief that God's promise would come true. Isaac was a fulfillment of God's covenant, the child through whom Abraham's descendants would come. So when God instructed Abraham to sacrifice Isaac, it must have felt like everything was being ripped away, the very promise he had waited for. Yet Abraham didn't hesitate. He took Isaac, and with great faith, he set out to do what God had asked. In the moments leading up to the sacrifice, Abraham's heart must have been filled with sorrow, confusion, and fear. But despite those emotions, he trusted God. Even when it seemed like the very thing that defined his purpose, his son, his future, was being taken from him, Abraham still trusted that God's plan was greater than his understanding. At the final moment, as Abraham raised a knife to sacrifice his son, God stopped him. He told Abraham that it was not the act of sacrifice that God desired, but Abraham's complete and utter trust in him. It was a test that proved not just Abraham's obedience, but his faith. God was asking him, "Do you trust me even when you don't understand my plan? Do you trust that I have a greater purpose for you, even when the world seems to be falling apart?" This test was never meant to break Abraham, but to refine him. It was about proving that his faith was unshakable. The test showed Abraham that no matter what obstacles came his way, no matter how impossible the situation appeared, he would trust in God's will. That is the heart of your test, chosen one. The final test you face is not about destroying you. It is about refining your character, fortifying your trust in God, and preparing you for the greatness He has planned for you. You may feel like this test is too much to bear. You may question why this is happening, why the timing seems so difficult, and why you're being asked to walk through this trial. But remember this: God's plan for you is far greater than you can comprehend. He is using this test to prepare you for something beyond what you can see right now. It's in the furnace of this trial that your true strength will be revealed. It's in the fire that the impurities are burned away, and what remains is a refined, stronger, and purer version of yourself. Just as gold is purified in the fire, so too is your faith being purified in this moment. The challenges you face are not obstacles. They are stepping stones that are pushing you to grow, to evolve, and to step into the person you are destined to become. These challenges are not meant to defeat you, but to elevate you. God knows that this is a test you need to face to prepare for the great things ahead. This is the ultimate proving ground for your faith. It is the moment when you are being shaped for the purpose that God has placed within you. This is a time for you to reflect on what you are truly made of. When you face a trial, it often feels like everything is at stake. You may feel the weight of your doubts and fears, but even in these moments, you have a choice. You can either surrender to the pressure of your circumstances or stand firm in your faith and trust that God's plan is at work. This test will not break you. It will shape you, refine you, and prepare you for a future that you cannot yet see, but is already set before you. The victory is already yours, chosen one. The moment you stepped into your divine identity, the battle was already won in the spiritual realm. But now, you must prove that your faith is unshakable, that you trust in God's plan even when you cannot see the way forward. This is where your strength will shine. When you are tested, your faith will be the light that guides you through the darkness. Comment prepare if you understand that this test is not meant to break you, but to prepare you for the greatness that is coming. Stay with me, because in the next section, we'll dive into how to recognize when you're in the midst of this divine trial. This test is not the end of your journey. It is the beginning of something much greater. You are being shaped for the divine destiny God has already written for you. Recognizing your test of faith is not just an important step. It is the first step toward passing it. The truth is, when you're in the middle of a trial, it's not always immediately clear that it's a test. It's easy to feel overwhelmed, to wonder why things are so difficult, and to question whether there's any purpose in the suffering you're experiencing. At times, life seems to throw obstacle after obstacle in your path, and with each new challenge, you might begin to believe that you're being punished or abandoned. In those moments, it's important to remember that these struggles, these challenges, are not random or meaningless. They are part of a divine test designed by God to refine your faith, to help you grow, and to shape you into the person you were always meant to be. It's easy to get lost in the frustration of difficult times. We've all been there, facing circumstances that seem impossible to overcome. Maybe it's a relationship that's falling apart, a health crisis that shakes you to your core, or a seemingly insurmountable obstacle standing in your way. During such times, it's natural to feel as though you're being punished, to ask, why is this happening to me? But the truth, chosen one, is that this is a test, a divine process that is in motion, even if you can't always see it. God is not punishing you. He is preparing you. He is using this trial to strengthen your faith, to show you that your trust in Him can withstand anything life throws your way. These trials, painful and perplexing as they may seem, are part of the journey you must take to fulfill your divine purpose. Take a moment to reflect on the story of Job, a powerful example of someone who faced unimaginable trials and yet remained faithful. Job was a man who had it all: wealth, health, a family, and he lived a righteous life. But in a short period of time, everything was taken from him. He lost his wealth, his health, and his children, all in what seemed like an instant. To add to his suffering, his friends turned against him, blaming him for his misfortune. His wife told him to curse God and die, essentially asking him to abandon his faith entirely. Job was left in the depths of despair, not understanding why he was being tested in such a way. Yet, despite the pain, despite the confusion, and despite the isolation, Job never wavered in his faith. He didn't understand why all of this was happening to him, but he held on to the belief that God was still with him, that there was purpose in his suffering. Job's story illustrates a powerful truth. Sometimes, we face trials that we don't fully understand. Sometimes, we are asked to endure challenges that seem too great to bear. But through it all, we are called to trust that God has a purpose. Job's test was not just about enduring loss. It was about proving that his faith could withstand the hardest of trials. It was about trusting in God's plan even when everything seemed uncertain. Job's endurance became a testament to his faith, and through that test, he was refined and transformed. Your test, chosen one, may not look like Job's. Your struggles may not mirror his exactly, but the principle remains the same. Perhaps you're facing a situation right now that seems impossible. Maybe it feels like everything is going wrong at once, or that the weight of your challenges is too much to bear. You might be questioning why you're going through what you're going through. But I want you to understand that this trial is not just an obstacle, it is a divine test. It's an opportunity for you to prove that your faith can withstand anything, no matter the circumstances. The tests we face come in many forms. It could be a test of patience, a test of trust, or a test of endurance. It might come in the form of a financial struggle, an emotional battle, or even a spiritual crisis. Perhaps your relationships are being tested with tension, misunderstanding, or betrayal clouding your interactions. Maybe your health is challenging you and you feel weak, vulnerable, or hopeless. Whatever form it takes, these trials are part of the divine process that God has set in motion to prepare you for what lies ahead. Recognizing that your trial is a test allows you to face it with a new perspective. Instead of seeing it as a burden, as something unfair or unjust, you can begin to see it as an opportunity for growth. These moments, these hardships, are the very tools God is using to refine you. They are opportunities to deepen your trust in Him, to prove that no matter what comes your way, you will stand firm in your belief. Every time you choose faith over fear, every time you trust in God's plan over the chaos around you, you are passing the test. Think about the times in your life when you felt like you were at your lowest. Maybe you didn't understand why you had to go through those things, and perhaps it felt like the world was against you. But now, looking back, you can see how each of those trials shaped you. You are not the same person you were before. You've grown stronger, more resilient, and more confident in your ability to face challenges. You've learned to trust more deeply, to rely on God more fully, and to recognize that you can endure far more than you thought possible. Every test you faced has prepared you for the next step, for the greater purpose that God has for you. The beauty of recognizing your trial as a test is that it changes the way you approach it. Instead of seeing yourself as a victim of circumstances, you can see yourself as a participant in a divine process. You are not being punished. You are being prepared. Each step forward, even when it feels difficult, is a step toward becoming the person God has called you to be. You are being molded, refined, and strengthened by the very trials that seem impossible to bear. And in that process, you are growing closer to the truth of who you are, the person you were always meant to be. But this requires a shift in mindset. When we're in the midst of a trial, it's easy to feel like we're alone, that God has forgotten us, or that we're being unfairly burdened. But the truth is, God is always present, even in our darkest moments. He is with you, chosen one, walking beside you through every trial. He's there in the moments of confusion, in the moments of pain, and in the moments of doubt. He is not a distant observer. He is intimately involved in your journey. In recognizing your trial as a test, you also recognize that God is using it to equip you for something greater. The final test you face is a preparation for the incredible purpose He has set before you. It's not meant to break you. It's meant to build you, to give you the strength and resilience you need to fulfill your calling. Each time you pass a test, you gain confidence, wisdom, and understanding that will serve you in the next season of your life. So, chosen one, I want you to take a deep breath and reflect on your current struggles. What are you facing right now? Is there something that feels like an insurmountable obstacle? Ask yourself, could this be a test? Are you being called to deepen your faith, to trust more fully, and to rely on God's strength? Recognizing the test is the first step toward passing it, and once you recognize it, you can approach it with the confidence that God is with you, guiding you every step of the way. Comment test if you're ready to recognize when God is testing your faith. This is the beginning of your journey to deeper trust, greater strength, and an unwavering belief that God's plan for you is unfolding perfectly. Stay with me, because in the next section, we'll dive into how you can pass this test with unwavering faith. The challenges ahead are not insurmountable. With God by your side, you can overcome anything. You now understand why the final test is necessary and how to recognize it. But the most crucial part of the test is still to come. How do you pass it? How do you overcome doubt, fear, and the challenges that stand before you? The next section will show you exactly what you need to succeed. So if you haven't yet, make sure to subscribe, share this video with others who might be facing their own trials, and hit the super thanks button to support. The answers are coming, so stay with me. Passing the final test of faith requires more than just effort or a desire to succeed. It requires total surrender. It requires a deep, unwavering trust that even in the midst of the most challenging trials, God has already equipped you with everything you need to overcome them. This is not about struggling with your own strength. It's about surrendering to God's will and trusting that He will guide you through every obstacle. The final test will demand that you let go of the need to control the outcome and instead place your faith fully in God, even when you can't see the way forward. This kind of surrender is not easy. It's not about simply wishing for things to work out. It's about trusting in a plan that you might not fully understand. But that's exactly what passing this test is all about. Trusting that God is in control, even when the situation seems impossible. When you're faced with a challenge, it's natural to want to solve it on your own. You might feel the urge to force a solution, to figure out every detail, or to manipulate the circumstances in your favor. But true faith isn't about forcing things to happen. It's about surrendering to God's plan and trusting that, even in the unknown, He is working everything out for your good. Think of the Israelites when they found themselves trapped at the edge of the Red Sea, with Pharaoh's army closing in on them. The situation seemed impossible. There was no way out. The sea was in front of them, and the enemy was behind them. It must have felt like there was no escape, no hope, and no way forward. But in that moment, they had to trust that God would provide a way. They didn't know how, but they trusted that God, who had led them out of Egypt, would make a way when there seemed to be none. And He did. God parted the waters, and the Israelites walked through on dry land, safely escaping the threat of Pharaoh's army. The miracle wasn't just in the parting of the sea. It was in the trust they placed in God, even when they couldn't see the path ahead. This is exactly what passing the test of faith is about. Trusting that God will make a way when there seems to be no way. There are moments in life when you will face obstacles that seem insurmountable, when the future feels uncertain, and when everything you thought you knew is challenged. But it's in those moments that your faith will be tested. It's easy to trust when the path is clear, when things are going smoothly. But true faith is trusting when the way forward is obscured, when the challenges are great, and when you don't have all the answers. When you reach the end of your own understanding, that's when God shows up in the most profound ways. One of the most powerful tools you have for passing this test is prayer. Prayer is how you communicate with God. It's the space where you can lay your fears, your doubts, and your uncertainties before Him. It's where you ask for guidance, strength, and wisdom, and it's where you submit your plans to His will. In the Gospels, we see that Jesus often withdrew to pray, especially when the challenges before Him seemed insurmountable. Even in the face of the most difficult trials, knowing that His ultimate mission would lead to unimaginable suffering, Jesus prayed. He aligned His will with the Father's, and through that act of surrender, He found the strength to continue on the path set before Him. This is the model for you, chosen one. When you're facing the test of faith, go to God in prayer. Seek His presence. In your quiet moments, pour out your heart to Him and ask for His guidance. Prayer doesn't always provide immediate answers, and it doesn't always change your circumstances right away. But prayer does change you. It aligns your heart with God's will, and it gives you the peace and strength to move forward, even when the road is difficult. Another key to passing the test is perseverance. There will be moments when you want to give up, when you feel like the weight of the world is too much to bear. There will be times when it feels like you're making no progress, or when the end seems too far off. But it's in these moments that your faith is truly tested. Perseverance is about pushing through the hardships, not by your own strength, but through the power of God working in you. Perseverance is about continuing to trust, even when the road ahead seems rough and the light at the end of the tunnel feels distant. Think of the Apostle Paul, who faced immense trials and hardships throughout his ministry. He was imprisoned, beaten, shipwrecked, and persecuted, yet he continued to persevere in his faith. In 2 Corinthians 4 verses 8 to 9, Paul writes, "We are hard pressed on every side, but not crushed, perplexed, but not in despair, persecuted, but not abandoned, struck down, but not destroyed." Paul knew that the trials he faced were not the end of the story. They were the refining process that would strengthen his faith and draw him closer to God. He didn't give up, even when the obstacles seemed insurmountable. He pressed on because he trusted that God was with him and that the victory was already secured. Perseverance is not about avoiding difficulties. It's about facing them with faith, knowing that God is walking with you every step of the way. It's in those moments of struggle that your character is shaped. When you press on, even when the journey feels too hard, you grow stronger. And that strength becomes the foundation upon which you build your future, one that is aligned with God's plan. It's important to remember that God's promises are true, and He will see you through this. You may not know the full outcome yet, but God does. He has already equipped you with everything you need to pass this test, and you don't have to do it alone. Trust in His strength, His wisdom, and His timing. You are not expected to face this test on your own. You have the full support of the Creator of the universe, and when you lean on Him, you can overcome any obstacle. When you face the final test, remember that your faith is not measured by your perfection, but by your trust in God's perfect plan. It's not about having all the answers or knowing exactly how everything will turn out. It's about trusting that God knows what's best for you and believing that He will lead you through, no matter how difficult the journey. Comment persevere if you are ready to trust God completely and pass the test. You are stronger than you realize, and with God by your side, you can face any challenge that comes your way. In the next section, we'll explore how to overcome doubt and fear, two of the biggest obstacles on your journey. Stay with me, because the next part will show you how to find the strength to trust God completely, even when doubt creeps in. Overcoming doubt and fear. Doubt and fear are two of the most powerful tools the enemy uses to try to break your faith. When you're in the midst of a trial, when everything seems to be falling apart and you feel like you're walking through the storm, it's perfectly natural to feel doubt creeping in. Oh, you may question whether you're strong enough to endure, whether God will truly come through for you, or if the promises He has made will ever be realized. In these moments, when fear takes hold of your heart, it can feel like you are losing your grip on everything you've worked so hard for. But I want you to know something deep within your spirit. Doubt and fear are nothing more than lies. They are the enemy's tactics to prevent you from walking in your full divine potential, from embracing the victory that is already yours, and from stepping into the fullness of God's purpose for your life. We've all felt it, the heavy weight of doubt and fear. It's not just an occasional thought. It can feel overwhelming, even paralyzing. Maybe you're standing on the edge of a great change in your life, a new chapter, or a new responsibility, and the weight of fear makes your knees feel weak. The enemy wants nothing more than for you to believe that you can't handle the challenges before you, that the obstacles in your way are too great, that your dreams are too far out of reach. Fear whispers that you're not strong enough, that you're not worthy, or that God is distant and unresponsive. But these whispers are lies. Lies meant to distract you from the truth that you are a chosen one, called for such a time as this equipped with everything you need to overcome. One of the most profound stories of overcoming doubt and fear in the Bible is the account of Peter walking on water. When Jesus called Peter to come to him, Peter stepped out of the boat, and for a moment, he defied all logic. He walked on water toward Jesus. But as soon as Peter took his eyes off Jesus and focused on the storm around him, he began to sink. Fear gripped him. He doubted, thinking, "This isn't possible. The storm is too big, and I am too small." It was only when he acknowledged his fear and cried out to Jesus for help that Jesus immediately reached out and pulled him back up. Peter's story is a powerful reminder of how fear and doubt can drown us if we allow ourselves to focus on the circumstances rather than the one who is in control of them. When Peter focused on the storm, he became overwhelmed. But when he fixed his eyes back on Jesus and cried out for help, he was immediately lifted. The lesson here is simple but profound. The key to overcoming fear is not to deny its existence, but to acknowledge it and then refocus your attention on God. Fear is real, but it is not greater than God. Doubt is a natural human response, but it must not control your actions. The enemy wants you to focus on the storm, to focus on everything that seems impossible. But God calls you to focus on Him, to trust that He is greater than any fear or doubt. You may not have all the answers. You may not know exactly what the future holds. But that's the essence of faith, believing even when you don't see the way. Trust that God is leading you, even when you can't see the entire path ahead. He is with you every step of the way. Comment fearless if you're ready to overcome doubt and fear with the strength of God. You are not alone in this. In the next section, we will explore what lies ahead after you pass this test and the incredible rewards that await you as you step into your divine purpose. The storm will pass, and the victory will be yours. Stay with me. There's so much more to discover about the greatness that God has prepared for you. Now that you understand how to overcome doubt and fear, what comes next? What rewards and growth await you on the other side of this test? The final part of your journey is here, and I promise it will change everything. What awaits after the test? When you pass this test, chosen one, your life will be forever changed. This test is not the end of your journey. It is a gateway that leads you into the next level of your divine purpose. The struggle you are facing now, the challenge that seems insurmountable, is not there to break you. It is there to refine you, to prepare you for what God has planned for you on the other side. Once you overcome this final challenge, you will step into a season of growth, abundance, and fulfillment that you could have never imagined before. The victory you achieve will not only transform your own life, but will set the stage for the impact you will have on others. At this moment in your life, it might feel like you are standing at the edge of a great unknown. You are facing a test that is pushing you to your limits, making you question your strength, your faith, and your ability to endure. But the truth is, chosen one, this is exactly where you need to be. The hardest moments in life are often the ones that lead to the greatest breakthroughs. The struggles, the doubts, the moments when it feels like all hope is lost. These are the very moments that are shaping you into the person you are meant to become. Your victory in this test will not only elevate you personally, but will open doors for you that were once closed. Think of it like a door that's been locked for years, with the key to unlocking it being your unwavering faith. When you pass this final test, God will unlock that door and lead you into a new season, one where you'll begin to see the results of your persistence, the fruits of your labor, and the impact of your obedience. It is through this process that you will begin to realize just how much God has been preparing you for what lies ahead. The waiting, the struggles, the doubts, and even the pain. These have all been part of your spiritual training, and now they will bear fruit in ways that you could not have imagined before. In the Bible, we are told in James 1 verse 12, "Blessed is the one who perseveres under trial, because, having stood the test, that person will receive the crown of life that the Lord has promised to those who love Him." This verse is not just a promise. It is a declaration of truth that applies to you right now. The test you are facing will eventually give way to a reward far greater than what you can see in the moment. On the other side of the test, you will find peace. You will find a deeper connection to God, a clarity about your purpose that will fill your heart with joy and fulfillment. The crown of life represents not just the rewards of enduring a trial, but the abundant life that comes from remaining faithful through hardship. Comment crown if you are ready to step into the blessings that await you. The reward is yours, chosen one, and the greatness that lies ahead is beyond what you can currently see. Your victory is just the beginning of an incredible journey that will change not just your life, but the lives of everyone you touch. Stay strong, stay faithful, and keep your eyes on God, because what's coming next is more beautiful and powerful than anything you could have imagined. This is your moment, chosen one. The final test is here, and with God's guidance, you will rise above it. Trust Him, and know that on the other side of this trial, you will step into the fullness of your divine calling. Subscribe, share, like, and comment "I am chosen" to affirm your faith and walk in your divine purpose. Your victory is already secured. Now, go forth and claim it.